Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Thursday, May 29th, 2025. And as always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 20 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can actually download also from that page, download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again, absolutely free. You can also download from that page a whole host of audio files or shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through that worksheet process. If you choose to listen to them, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. And you can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. If you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives. And secondarily, because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. And if you have any of those to share with us, we would greatly appreciate you doing so. You can email me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. Or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org. And if we get a question or a comment or a testimonial from you, we'll address it on the internet show, and then as time allows, send you a notification about what day and time that occurred, so you can listen back to the archives for your feedback or your input. If you have the access to Zoom, either call in on one of their many phone numbers that they list as available, or open up a browser window, and our meeting ID number is 853-2357-4173. That's 853-2357-4173. And I'd like to remind people that we are greatly appreciative whenever anybody chimes in, whether it's through an email or a direct call while we're doing one of the shows, because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work when we know how these things are landing for you. What is having the most direct benefit for you? What would you like more of? What would you like less of? What questions might you have about how these tools work and how to get better results from them in your life, etc. And so one of the things we've been doing so far this year is going back over the book A Walk in the Physical. It's a book by Christian Sundberg. And we read through it, most of it, once in the past, and it was requested again after we finished our last read through of The Way of Mastery with commentary. And we're wrapping up the second part of that book, which is a a series of 166 short essays, and Christian has grouped them into themes. So we have been reading through the various themes, and we're about to finish reading the essays before we go on to the third part of the book, which is a question and answer section. And the last the last thing we set up and talked about yesterday that we would read today is from an essay titled "You Never Left Home." And this is under the theme of the heading for this theme is "You Are Already There." And the essay titled "You Never Left Home" is the first one in this list of 6 essays. And Christian writes, "You never left home. Your spirit is still there. You actually are still there. While you are there, you've committed a part of yourself into this local, physical, time-bound experience. In order to have this experience, the part of you that came here had to agree to temporarily forget the depth, the richness, the breadth of all that you really are. This veil of forgetfulness was necessary for you because without it, you couldn't have the experience of being human. After all, how could you experience being human if you fully knew in each new present moment that you were the entire universe and connected to all in the universe and connected to that which created the universe? How could you ever have the experience of being solitary and small and weak and struggling if you remained in that awareness of your connection to everything? However, your forgetting and your highly specialized focus in this reality have never changed the fact that you already exist beyond it as well. Spirit is not some substance that comes and goes. Spirit is the ever-present substrate through which all experience occurs. Spirit does not cease. Spirit can take many shapes, and those shapes may change, and yet spirit itself is always present. You are spirit, and thus, as you entertain the life before you, your transcendent nature always remains. For those of us who are so deep in the dream, this is an important fact to remember, because our believing in the separation of the spirit from the physical has helped to keep us in an experience of distance. A creative spirit that you are, as a creative spirit, we form our own reality experience through what we believe about it. It is reality changing, then, to wake up to the fact that we are not distant from our true nature or from the larger reality. In fact, we're there right now, in the same moment that you are here in the physical realm and limited to one single body and feeling weak and struggling against the issues in your life. In that same moment, you are also connected to all that is. You are also part of a vast consciousness with no end. Christian goes on and writes, metaphorically speaking, we are dreaming this physical experience while we're asleep in the non-physical. As each individual even gradually wakes up to his or her greater nature, a change occurs in consciousness space, which affects a change in our world. So please be encouraged and be reminded that you truly transcend this rich reality experience before you. And even if you do not see it or feel it, you are already home. You are already home. You never left your home in spirit, in this connection to everything. So that's the first essay in this grouping titled, You Are Already There. And the second one is titled, Always Remember Your Light. And Christian writes, you, just as you are right here this moment, you are part of the light, capital L light, the light of all that is, the light of consciousness, the light of awareness, the light of creation. You are unspeakably valuable and an amazing fragment of that which is. Capital T, capital W, capital I, that which is, all that is. You are an unspeakably valuable and amazing fragment of all that is. You are spirit, brave and immortal spirit, having chosen to have an experience of a body. Your essence, the truth of who you are as spirit, cannot be harmed. You cannot be forgotten, and you cannot be replaced. You are never truly alone. You are adored and held up and celebrated by countless thousands upon thousands of those who know and cherish you. You are a spark of the divine flame which shines bright in all things. You are a fire in the illusion of darkness. You are the presence of love, uniquely expressed as only you can express love. You are a powerful force, a mighty consciousness who has set out upon one of the greatest adventures thus far conceived, fully participating and yet fully transcendent. Your every thought and intent speaks to the galaxies, as they are your brothers and sisters. You are connected to every single thing that exists. You are so wonderful that you are beyond description. You are a universe unto yourself, and yet an ever-shining drop in the unspeakably brilliant ocean of the light, L-I-T-E, capital L-I-G-H-T. You are loved and you are love. As you take your walk in the physical, the invitation here is for you to set aside time to listen with your deepest being, rather than with your mind, rather than with your thoughts about what seems to be passing in front of you. As you do that, the invitation is for you to allow yourself to remember what you truly are. You are far more than the body. The body has literally arisen within your consciousness. The next essay is titled The Playground and the Classroom. Christian writes, our experience here is born of the spirit of play. Our true nature is one that is completely free, unlimited, creative, and powerful. That true nature is from the true state that we decide to ultimately express ourselves here in the physical universe. We use our true nature to express ourselves here in the physical universe. And he goes on to say, and yet here on earth, we often go through experiences that seem far from playful. We are engaged in what may seem to be the hard constraints or the hard rules of our world. A knife will always cut. Resources will always be finite. And the body will always die. These are those examples of those rules or hard constraints. Indeed, there is profound growth opportunity available to the spirit when it is, quote, forced, close quotes. In truth, it's only apparently forced, it only seems to be forced, to face these hard constraints. Such experiences help us experientially learn, in quotes, and what we do is we learn how to deal with circumstances, and we learn how to make choices, and we learn even more about who we truly are. Even through and beyond our local reality, there are, quote, spiritual laws, close quotes, that are in place that help guide us through that growth that is beneficial for us. And sometimes that process can seem extremely painful. So, is this life more a playground or a classroom? The following two statements he offers are both true and do not contradict each other. They're both true and they do not contradict each other. And here's the first statement: nothing is required of us. Teachings in the Course in Miracles and the Way of Mastery let us know we need do nothing. And the essence of that is the understanding that if you absolutely needed to do something, that would mean in that moment you're not free. You don't really have choice. So nothing is required of us. The universe is born out of a desire to play, a desire to exercise our great creative natures in a unique way, just for the sake of doing so. So you need do nothing. Nothing is required of us. The second point is there is meaning and value in integrating challenging experiences and in adding to the flow of creation. He writes, sometimes the, quote, spiritual laws, close quotes, that are in place already end up guiding us through what seem to be very difficult experiences for the sake of growth. The classroom is in the playground. Even when you're in class, you can play. No matter what circumstance you find yourself in, your true nature remains unharmed and shining and joyful. And when you can fully let go of the burden that you have assigned to your assignment, and when you can get in touch with and express that ever-abiding true nature, often the lesson is ended, and you can now be full of even more joy than you were before you playfully, quote, went to class, close quotes. So your essence can't ever be disrupted, hurt, I say chipped, dented, rusted, faded, or broken in any way, regardless of the difficult and seemingly painful circumstances that you find yourself in, moment to moment, day to day. None of it touches your essence. None of it speaks of your value. Years ago, when I had one of my tools that I kind of assembled to give to patients, one of them was an affirmations list. It's an observations list. And it went hand in hand with the safety rating scale. And I would say to people, we want you to create a list of observations. And, excuse me, they can be anything you want them to be, as long as they follow these rules. It's neutral. We'll tolerate a little bit of positive, but we're shooting for neutral. We won't tolerate negative. It's about you or has you as the subject, begins with the word I or has you as a subject. It's unconditionally true all the time, and it's true about you and everybody else on the planet, everybody else in the body. So as long as your observations that you want to write down and repeat to yourself follow all four rules, it can be anything you want. Now, most of the time, people get stymied when I give them those four rules, and they say, well, what the heck could I put on that list? That's absolutely 100% true every day, all day, that's about me and has me as the focus, and is true for everybody else on the planet, the same as is true for me, and that it's basically neutral. So I provided a list of 12 or 13 or 15 different statements. And one of those statements that was an option that they could use on their own or use to start to develop their own statements or observations. One of them was, my successes and my failures in any area do not increase or decrease my value as a person. And what that's talking about is this essence, the spiritual truth of yourself as consciousness itself, that which transcends your physical body and your physical circumstances and your bankruptcy or your divorce or your raging at your children that don't deserve it, etc. This essence of you transcends all of that. And your successes and your failures in any area do not increase or decrease your value as a person. And that probably just, came up in me as a response to the many times that I had read the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. And it never ceases to amaze me how many times I mention that and people haven't heard it. So here's the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to be broken and stoop and build them up again with worn out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings and not lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the world and everything that's in it. And what is more, you'll be a true human, my son. I changed a few words, but the essence of that is if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, which I would say when I read that line, I think about every great teacher that has been called a spiritual teacher. Yeshua, Mary Baker Eddy, Buddha, every great teacher that's had people come along afterwards and collect what is their teachings and form them into a bunch of rules or ways to separate out others who don't, quote, believe the same. So that's the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. And it was sparked by the idea that whatever you do here in the body, however much wealth you accumulate, however many people you lift out of homelessness, however many people you attack verbally, or whatever you do, it never damages, chips, dents, rusts, fades, or breaks in any way your true essence. As Dr. Michael Rice likes to say, you have all the value that any person that's ever lived has simply because the Creator put the breath of life in you. So that was from the essay titled The Classroom and the Playground. The next essay in this grouping of You're Already There is titled The Search for Wholeness. And Christian writes, we seek pleasure not just as a biological impulse, but also because spiritually, we always seek our source, capital S, source. We yearn for the unity with that source and the unity with each other. The unity which is native, which is our fundamental truth, and it's our true spiritual state. As humans, in a universe of form, we tend to constantly look for that unity, and we look for the joy in the form, in the physical world. And we tend to constantly look for that unity in objects, people, ideas, beliefs, sights, sounds, substances, sensations. And while we may temporarily enjoy such unique form experiences, they never fully satisfy us because they're not what we're truly looking for. They are not what makes us complete. Our true joy is rooted in our true nature, not in the stimulating illusion of separate things. One of the reasons that we come to be human is to discover that truth from our own individual experience. Guy Finley likes to talk about how we will keep running into problems, having the same kinds of unsatisfying life experiences over and over and over again until we wake up and realize that none of those external experiences are ever going to be satisfying to us. Christian goes on and writes, eventually, when the allure of form has failed us enough times, we have little choice but to turn inward. When we finally drop our frantic search and we surrender, we find in a spontaneous moment that the wholeness we seek never left us. The wholeness that we seek is what we are. This is the wisdom that comes from St. Francis of Assisi, who said, what you are looking for is what is looking. Guy Finley has a story about a woman who's living in Happy Valley. And it wasn't too long after she was there, and she started to have some discontent, and then she realized, you know what, Happy Valley is not such a happy place. And she decided she was going to leave. And he goes through this extended story about how first thing she did when she decided she was going to leave is she started telling her friends she was going to leave. And he said, that's a guarantee you're not leaving. If you want to leave, just pack up and leave. But if you walk around telling people your intention to leave and you're going to leave them in the lurch and you're going to go find happiness, they're not going to let you go easily. But eventually in the story, she decides to start hiking, walking out of Happy Valley. But every time she did, there seemed to be somebody there to block her way. And they were off in the distance, but when she moved, they would move. And when she would move toward them, they would move towards her. And when she moved away, they would go further away. And she didn't like the looks of them, so she was happy to have them go away. So she'd eventually go back home. And in this lengthy story he tells, eventually what she found was she'd get lost in her daily activity. And a few years later, she'd realize, oh, wait a minute, I wanted to leave Happy Valley. And she'd start out again. The issue is, eventually, the people blocking her got closer and closer, and she realized they were her. They looked just like her. And then eventually, one day, when she went to leave, they kept getting closer and closer to her house as she would strike out. One day, she opened the front door, and the person was there. And she realized in that moment, it wasn't a person, it was a mirror. And she touched the mirror, and her hand went right through it. And then she got up all her courage and she stepped right through the mirror and found that she was no longer in Happy Valley. She wasn't trapped anymore. The only way out is through. The only thing you're really looking for in this life is a more direct experience of your own nature. Eventually, when you've tried everything there is in the world of form, you've tried to satisfy and satiate yourself with this immediate gratification and that immediate gratification and that delayed gratification, eventually you'll turn inward and you'll find that what you were looking for was inside of you the whole time. And the searching will be over. Like the Way of Mastery says, you must decide to be a person who gives up searching and you be one who has found. Found what? Found the answer has always been inside of you. Found that you don't need to look outside of yourself for the joy, for the fulfillment, for the wholeness that is your true nature. Christian finishes that paragraph by saying, the wholeness is what we are. And we only experience the separation because we're focused on things outside of us and we believe in it. And so when we finally fully let go of our attachment to forms, wholeness naturally arises back up in us all on its own. And that's another way to talk about this, is that we are literally the ones that we are literally creating the force with our mind energy that blocks us from experiencing ourselves as this gift of life, as the energy of creation expressing in form, as the miracle of life expressing in form. He writes, this surrender can be very difficult, however, because the truth of our being seems to get wrapped up in all the forms of our lives. And as that happens, our true nature seems to become invisible. We really believe that we are nothing but the body, nothing but the physical being. We really believe that we are our occupation, our relationships, our affiliations, our ideas, and our bodies. Letting go of the form is not an act of pitting yourself against the form. Rather, letting go of the form is a process of allowing whatever is happening to just be as it is. All the form exists within you. It is not you that exists within the world of form. He writes in parentheses, like a spirit inhabiting a body in a material universe, for instance. Your awareness is always present for all aspects of your reality to exist. As you move toward that awareness itself, if you'll remember earlier in another essay, they were talking about the process of meditation It's most beneficial if what you do is you meditate on your own true nature. You don't fight your thoughts. You don't focus on your thoughts. You don't treat them as they need to be batted away, or if they're bad, you just watch them and you watch that your awareness of them is what you really are. Your ability to be aware is your true nature. He writes, your awareness is always present for you in all aspects of your reality. As you move toward that awareness itself, exactly as it is in the present moment, you automatically open the door for the wholeness that you seek to rise back up into your awareness. When we finally resense it, we discover that the wholeness is always there. It never goes away. Indeed, our unified true nature is always present. And despite the rich and convincing experience of separation, our being, capital B, being, through which the experience of form occurs, cannot ever be anything other than free, blissful, and whole. This is how people like Roger McGowan can choose for love, even though they've been sentenced to death row in Texas for a crime they didn't commit. They're completely free. We are completely free. This is how people like Viktor Frankl can be in a concentration camp and have his friends and family being murdered around him and choose for love rather than rage or despair. Your true nature of being and awareness is always with you. And when you stop searching outside of yourself for gratification and distraction and you settle into the awareness of your true nature, it rises up to meet you. Again, when you go out looking for enlightenment, for God, for light, for love, for wholeness, for connection, when you go out looking for those things, what you're looking for is the part of you that's out looking. And the only way you get satisfaction, the only way you are aware of your wholeness is if you turn inside and observe it directly.
Dr. Tim,
Yes.
I got a question. This is Sue here. When Michael wrote his book and he called it "Why Is This Happening to Me Again?" He's talking about things that we have evidently drawn to ourselves. And when Christian Sundberg talks about life in the physical, he is saying that there will be many challenges. When he says there will be many challenges, it doesn't sound as if it's something we directly asked for. We asked to be born to learn, to have challenges so that we could learn, but specific events doesn't appear as if we asked for those. But Michael, as far as I understand his work, is saying maybe it is the same. Maybe we are asking for them, and we're asking, like I keep having the experience of like this man who lived with us, Michael Bennett lived with us. He is continuing to write. I thought I had blocked him, but he's writing these really hateful letters. And I'm thinking, why did I asked for this? I have asked for this. What is this teaching me? What's going on? I don't really know how to put this. Do I need this for my growth?
Well, look at it this way.
Okay.
When you're interpreting words like the title of Dr. Michael Rice's book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? What you're doing when you interpret it and then try and make sense of it through the logical structure that you just presented, you're trying to figure out, so am I bringing these things to me or is this just the flow of life, etc. What you're doing is you're kind of to my perception, you're misinterpreting Michael's book. His book title is about how people keep asking, why is this happening to me again? And the answer is, I'm creating my experience of it. It's not happening to me. It's a flow of life. And you might have heard Michael say, um, it's all done with smoke and mirrors. It's all an inside job, right? I'm creating the essence of what Michael Rice teaches, even though at times he rails against it and insists it's very different, is no different to my eye and ear than what the Way of Mastery says when it says, look, you have the infinite, I've adjusted these words, but the essence of it is you have the infinite capacity to choose the focus of your conscious awareness in each new present moment. And it is that choice. It's the focus of your conscious awareness in each new present moment that is creating your experience of life.
Okay, I got that. And that poem, If, was saying that was such a good poem to pop up today because he's saying if you can remain centered, balanced, okay, in a loving state.
Regardless of what's happening.
Yeah,
It's the
right.
same message in the Way of Mastery where it says, if you can have this awareness of your true nature and your connection to source, when the walls of the building are crumbling around you, when you
Mm-hmm.
go to your bank account and some scammer has emptied it, when the people you love most have left you or died, if you can have this level of contentment and bliss, even when that happens, now you've got something. It's the same message from the poem If.
Mm.
It's ancient wisdom that keeps bubbling up or coming down to us through the ages from a variety of different sources.
So it isn't what is happening, it's how
Yes, it's
what we
how we
make it mean.
interpret it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Course in Miracles says, I give this meaning, this moment, all the meaning it has for me. I'm the one
Mm.
creating whatever there is that's meaning in my life.
Okay. I think one thing I've gotten mixed up with is if this keeps happening, and in the case of Michael, but it is one person, so maybe it's not keeping happening. It's
Listen,
just,
listen, listen to this.
yeah.
Try to remember Pierre Pradervan and the book, The Gentle Art of Blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Try to put that together with the observation we make over and over again in this work, that whatever comes out of my mouth is only, always, and forever going to tell you about what's going on inside me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to tell you about you or the world around me. Try to put that together with the idea that if there's anger, upset, hurt, swearing, name calling coming out of me, it means there's pain, fear, or sadness inside of me
Mm-hmm.
that I don't feel willing or able to deal with inside myself. So you put those together, and what do you get? This Michael person is just crying out for help.
Mm-hmm.
And you've already done all that you need to do in terms of physical, material help for him. You've gone way above and beyond. So now he's still there crying for help. What can you do? Use something like the gentle art of blessing. Use a meditation where you go into a meditation and you hold him in an image of calm, basically the opposite of everything he's displaying. You
Mm-hmm.
hold him in comfort, you hold him in joy, you hold him in appreciation. You envision him as having appreciation for his life,
Mm-hmm.
having the wisdom of life lessons, having the gratitude for having life lessons that write in under, to his life on the back of the events he doesn't want. You can do meditations where you're sparked by his angry messages to hold him in deeper and brighter visions of light and wholeness. You benefit because in that moment, you're creating in your heart space images of love and compassion and wholeness and sweetness So you're feeling that radiating in you, and then you energetically, emotionally, thoughtfully, however you send it out to him, he has to be willing to receive it, but it is tangibly available for him. And if that happens, you remember I talked about this book the other day, Positive Intelligence,
Yeah. Mm.
and this man Shirzad Shamin is talking about how our brains have been probably evolutionarily pre-programmed to scan for danger and to
Mm-hmm.
interpret things negatively. So there's this tremendous momentum to go to the negative in our thought process and our interpretation of life events.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, look, there's also another part of you that's called, the higher S self in the internal family systems work, your true self in this work. It's, your inner light. It's the awakened heart from is what the way of mastery calls it. Your soul, that your spark of consciousness, all these different things call it the same thing or different things, but it's the same thing, right? Your connection to a wisdom that's different than what your logic would give you.
Mm.
That's also in you. It's in everyone. But what is more obvious is this negativity that keeps coming,
Mm.
right?
Yep.
So Shirzad says, so set it up in your mind that you start noticing the negativity, and every time the negativity comes, Shirzad says, go to Dr. Hayes's 10 bottom line observations and read the one that says if I have a negative thought or a negative emotion active, I can
Mm-hmm.
instantly know three things. It's a lie, it's an old
Mm.
tape playing, etc. He doesn't mention me by name, but it's the same wisdom, right? So
Mm.
you stay vigilant that my negative thoughts are false. And every time a negative thought comes up, I use it to trigger a 5 or 10 second little exercise to tap into my sage, that he calls it the sage, to my wise old owl, to
Mm.
my
Mm-hmm.
Holy Spirit connection, to my light, to my collective unconscious. And so I use the negative, that pang of a stab of pain that you get when you get another negative message from your Michael friend, and you use it to instantly go into a pre-programmed blessing that you've written out, and you use it to generate loving feelings in your heart and then send it to them, and then you move on. in that
So,
way, in that way, every time he does something that you could interpret as striking out at you, you reinterpret as just a wonderful, gentle reminder to be gentle with yourself and send loving blessings to him.
gentle with yourself. That's it. I went right down the tubes because I thought maybe I am a piece of shit.
Exactly. There's a negative thought, so we know it's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know it's at least based on a false assumption, if not completely false, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an old tape playing.
It is old. Yeah.
Right? I don't know. Maybe you were 3 years old. Maybe you were five. Maybe you were eight. Maybe you were 12. Maybe you were 16 years old when you downloaded this or crystallized something you downloaded from earlier years into this belief that you're a piece of shit. And it's false. And so every layer of it that you can peel away and dismantle and see through it to its core will benefit you. And you can then offer gratitude energy to whoever might have sparked your awareness of that deep negative belief you carry inside yourself. Remember the aardvark example. Please remember the aardvark example.
I don't remember the aardvark
I
example.
told you to remember. How could you let me down? So here's the aardvark example I use with people. If I'm walking down the street and somebody comes up to me and says, Hayes, you idiot, what are you doing walking around in that human suit? We all know you're really an aardvark. Nobody believes this human crap from you.
Mm.
If that happens to me, I don't get upset. I don't try and convince the person I'm human. I wave and move on, or I send them blessings, or I take a few steps in the other direction to keep safe.
Yeah. Mm.
The only way I can do that is because I have never had a deeply held belief that I might actually be a four-legged, long-haired creature with a long nose and a long tail that eats ants. No
Good for
part of me is
you.
ever worried about that.
I think that's not true for some of us. We think
Well, but
maybe we've been
listen,
outed.
here's the example. If 20 years ago or even 15 years ago, somebody had come up to me and said, "Oh, you walking around like you're some good psychologist. You're a jerk. You ruined my family. You ruined my life." You better believe there'd be stabs of pain back then because I
Mm,
still had some doubts about my therapeutic effectiveness and have I read enough books and do I have enough trainings and did I waste some of my trainings just to get CEUs and I should have spent them somewhere else for more effectiveness. I but now somewhere down the line in the last 5 or 10 years, now that I'm hitting 51 years experience doing therapy, it doesn't really shake my foundations anymore because I'm not holding that core belief like I did for so many years.
how do you get rid of? I don't hold that core belief.
Yes, you do. You absolutely do.
I,
You just named it when you
yeah,
said piece of shit.
I understand, but I mean, where, how do you get the shovel down
One, what
underneath?
you don't get the shovel down underneath. You peel off the onion layer, the rice
Mm,
paper thin layers of the, gigantic boulder. You
mm,
just do it as it arises. And you
well,
be
it
willing to
arose.
go back and do it every time it arises, because in
Mm-hmm.
each moment that you see it as truly false, it's replaced with joy. It's
When you
replaced with
see,
contentment. When you
mm,
see it, when you're willing to see, like this dynamic we're talking about with your friend Michael, that something coming from him that's nasty and negative and insulting has nothing to do with you. It means he's in pain, fear, or sadness, right?
I agree
And
with all of that. There's
and
just the
and and
guts.
then that gut thing. So when the gut thing happens, you turn the focus inside and say, "Oh, poor little Timmy. There's a wounded part of you that feels like you're a piece of S, right? And let me comfort you. Let me reassure you." I had a woman in my office yesterday, the day before, and she's got to be in, approaching 50 or whatever, and she is a very successful woman and, has all kinds of successes in her life. And yet, when dealing with her own mother and her younger sister, she gets all of these shaky, doubt, tearful,
Mm,
angry, hurt emotions coming up.
yeah.
So when we did the energy work that we do, which is just kind of a focused, a little bit more intense way to do the process, just like the reality management worksheet, when we did that, it revealed that the emotion that she was dealing with was this emotion of shame and feeling unlovable. And that the specific instance was something she remembered from 6 years old, 5 or 6, I forget what. And what happened when she was 5 or 6 years old was something was upsetting her in her life and her family, and her parents were basically clueless and ignoring it. And so she threw a tantrum to try and get their attention to let them know, hey, I'm not okay over here, right? Which what 6 year olds do. And she got hurt, physically hurt in the tantrum. Follow the story?
Yep.
So here she is, 50 years old, remembering herself at 6 years old and ashamed at 50 thinking about her 6 year old self because it was at 6 years old that she downloaded this belief or crystallized it even more. Maybe it was there for a few years before that, but it got crystallized into I'm not lovable. And now she's a 50-year-old looking back at her 6 year old self saying, that was really stupid that I was doing that and that I was hurt, got hurt, and it was all. And I just interrupted her. I said, listen, you need to understand that that 6 year old little girl was intelligent and creative and strong and perseverant, and she was speaking up for herself in the only way she knew how. She was crying out for help from parents who, for whatever reason, weren't able to understand or, predict the problem and help her through it. So instead of looking with shame and disgust on that 6-year-old, I want you as a 50-year-old to look at her and understand she has the same kind of intelligence, creativity, and perseverance that you have, because if she didn't, you never would have gotten to where you are today. So instead of looking at your 6-year-old with shame and disgust, you need to look at your 6-year-old through the compassion and love and appreciation filters. And that's the only way she's going to start to feel better about herself. And that's the only way you start to dismantle the negative conclusion that your 6-year-old version of yourself is still holding on to, that she's unworthy or unlovable. The same is true
Mm.
for all of us.
Yeah.
And that's why we talk about, there's another bottom line observation that says, I'm never going to be upset about anything anybody else ever says or doesn't do that I think they should, unless I'm still judging myself negatively for doing the same or similar thing.
And we're not even aware of it until the hit comes. We think we're finished with it,
Right.
with that sort of thing.
But
Yeah.
when I go back and I find my 6-year-old self,
Mm.
that I, as the adult, am embarrassed that I threw a tantrum so hard that I got physically hurt. And if I go back and view that through the lens of understanding this whole picture
Mm.
and everything I knew about life and relationships and what my coping mechanisms were at 6 years old, I have nothing but compassion for my 6-year-old self. And then I come to the present moment and I look at the situation I'm struggling with now, or I look at somebody else in my life that I feel disgust toward them because they're throwing a tantrum or whatever. I have nothing but compassion for them because my emotional state was never about them or what they're doing ever in the first place. It was about me holding negative judgments about me.
Mm.
And often they're too painful for me to see them directly, so I project them into my mind's image of somebody else. And that image shows up in my mind, and I'm convinced that person is a jerk. That person is way off the mark. That person is weak or childish. It's really myself that I'm judging negatively. And when I allow myself to see that, when I do enough worksheet processes and canceling the goals and asking to be shown, I put the conscious logical mind on the shelf and ask to be shown by that connection, that sage, wise part of me, that Holy Spirit connection within me. I ask to be shown. Eventually, the fearful parts of me get convinced that I really mean it this time after decades of running from those internal holdings and those internal negative beliefs. It finally gets, after decades of me trying, but saying I'm willing, I'm going to do the worksheets, I'm going to trying to hide from it for decades, eventually I step into a process that invites it, and I'm doing something like the worksheet process and the breath work and the EFT tapping. So I soften my system enough that this stuff can bubble up and I can see the true false nature of it, the actual nature of it as so false. And that's when it loses its power over me. Just like this
Mm.
essay was saying, when I
Mm.
see my true nature, and that my true nature is what I've actually been out looking for from other people and other connections, that's when the joy of it bubbles to the surface and becomes my true experience. So I realize we've come all the way to the end of our hour.
Mm.
Thanks as always for the wonderful questions. I will mute you so you can listen in to or drop off. And in the next hour, Michael and Jeannie are going to be posting another best of from a, a workshop he's done, and it'll be posted on Podbean. And we'll be back again tomorrow. I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. There will be a support group tonight. Mindshiftersacademy.org is the place to find the information and join us